Hi, my name is Darren Bartlett, and I love to talk about current affairs on the African continent. That is what I am passionate about. Now, today is 12th June, the day that is set aside to spread awareness about child labor, which is something very interesting. And I was reading so many reports today morning, and I noticed that, wait, the target was actually 2025 to see that they end child labor by this time. Let me just come to the African continent. Now, Brian Smith, who is the global head of sustainability at Olam Cocoa, that's a company that deals in cocoa, came out and said, "Look, 60% of the children, or 60% of child labor is actually in Africa and in West Africa, where 2.1 million children are involved in cocoa growth. The whole process, they're in the fields and doing a lot of work." Now, they do this not because they want to be there, but because largely cocoa is grown in small farms, that's a small households trying to grow up these plants, sell it, make money to eat something for themselves, to have something to fend from themselves because poverty is right on the rise. And Africa has actually the biggest population of the youth. Now, you can look at that. Who else would be going in the garden if it's not the young ones? Come to the Ugandan statistics here, where UBOS released its figures. Now, there was a problem with those figures, but still, I'll give you what is there. They say that 70% of the population of Uganda is below the age of 17. Now, if you look at such a number, it's so staggering, and yet the biggest population of people who are actually making money here are involved in agriculture. It simply means that the young children are likely to be in the fields, in the gardens, doing rice, matoke, coffee, and all these crops that you will talk about that we export to different countries within East Africa, in Central, and probably export beyond Africa. Come to DRC here, where the figures show by June last year, 2024, it showed that 361,000 children were working in the mines. Now, those are only children working in the mines. We've not put children who are involved in other economic activities that are at a low scale or at a small household level. And we are just counting those who are in the mines. 361,000. So that means if we added the other ones who are not only the eastern part of Congo, but the others in the other parts of Congo, we are likely to see a figure that goes even up to 4 million children who are involved in the process of making money. So that is child labor. Now, go to a country like Malawi, where a report on food crisis was showing that about 6.7 million people in Malawi are likely to face food insecurity. That's such a huge number, and it's a country with a very small population. And if you look at these 6.7 million, most of them are women and children who are likely to face starvation. So what happens is that these children are going to find themselves doing small scale jobs to be able to earn money and bring to the table. Today, the father is not the only person who is going to bring money or food on the table. It's not enough. It means that the woman has to work and the children have to work. These scenarios shouldn't be alien to you people. I'm very certain that you have been in a scenario where you see a woman and a child come to your places and they say, "We do laundry services. We want to do laundry services where you can pay us this much, about $2, $3, depending on how much they are going to wash, things like that, and what kind of material they are going to wash." So they are doing every kind of small scale job to be able to sustain a family and go to school. I have been in a village school before, about a year, where I had to wake up every morning at 6 a.m., go to the gardens, dig up to 8 a.m., then go to school, come back from school at around 3 p.m., and then go to the gardens at 4 until 7 p.m. What were we doing? We were going to rice schemes and also doing wheat or millet. And we have to harvest this at the end of the day, sell it so that you can get school fees to go and get scholastic materials or uniforms or food that, to get a different flavor of food to put on your table. Now, with all the problems posed, especially when it comes to poverty, with the reset of the world after COVID, we got a new different world where the economy went down, but the populations kept on going up, where there are no jobs and employment is increasing every now and then. With all these tariffs and deportations that are happening around the world, how can you end child labor? with all the problems surrounding a family that only lives and survives at under $1, because that's the biggest population. Most of the people are poor. So if you go to a home where they tell you we only eat beans and flour, maize flour, to survive, that is less than $1. How about school? How about having a balanced diet? So when you put across all these questions, they are unable to sustain it, their lives. That's what I mean. With aid cuts, USAID has cut funding, and other global organizations that feel they can no longer sustain. If refugees in Uganda have a problem where they say funding is going to be reduced, so it means that Uganda itself cannot handle the size of refugees in camps who also need basic needs. By the way, they need to go to school, they need to shower, they need to eat good food and a balanced diet. They need security and so much that goes on into a basic life. They need a shelter. So what happens is that these kids are going to find themselves doing manual labor before they reach the age of 18. They are going to do work that can only be done by adults. They will end up in mines. They will end up in fields doing large-scale agriculture to be able to make money. So how do we end child labor with all the problems that we have on this continent of Africa? I don't know. Maybe you have some suggestions. Just let me know. But we have to thank UN to also look at these statistics because it's tough. My name is Darren Bartlett, and I will see you in the next one.